Good morning. Sorry, good evening, dear colleagues. Good evening, uh, good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are from. So, welcome to Open Central Asia Regional Interest Community. Welcome to guest expert webinar. My name is Yerkin Abdurrahimov, and I'm one of community leaders on interest community, and I'm going to be your host for today's session. And along with me, there will be the moderator, chat moderator, and Q&A session facilitator, one of our community leaders, Nadra Kushbakova from Uzbekistan. Now, today's speaker is Hannah Rothwell. Let me introduce her. Hannah Rothwell is a dynamic educator who connects students to their learning goals through innovative and creative approaches. A Fulbright alumna, she has 6 years of teaching experience in Jordan and Uzbekistan. She holds a bachelor's in economics and international affairs from University of Mary, Washington, USA, a master's in education and innovation from Webster University, Tashkent, is currently pursuing her doctorate of education in transformative learning in the global community from Webster University in St. Louis. Hannah is also an adjunct professor in the Maiden program at Webster University, Tashkent, and the co-founder and academic coordinator of Opus Language School, the first fully English private school in Fergana. Welcome, Hannah. And today she's going to speak on the topic of integrating AI into planning for project-based learning assessments. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here with all of you guys today. Like Yerkin mentioned, my name is Hannah Rothwell. I am American, but I've been living here in Uzbekistan for about 5 years now. Yeah, 5 years now. And I mostly worked with university level students kind of during this time. But recently, I worked with, a local partner of mine to co-found a new private school here in Fergana, and we're really excited about this school. We're targeting currently elementary school age students, which is, great and very exciting. But it's a demographic that I have a little bit less experience working with. Yeah, and we're very excited about, kind of using new methods of teaching and assessment. We really want to incorporate critical thinking and creativity from a very early age for our students. But we're also facing in educational culture where it's not really as common to sort of integrate these things. And that also means that the teachers who we're working with, even though they're very smart and talented teachers, they largely don't have a lot of experience, with these methodologies either. So it then, put me in a position as kind of an administrator and an educational leader to think, all right, well, how can I find new and innovative ways for me to prepare my teachers to design these projects for our students. So it was, a really interesting challenge. But I realized, you know what, we're living in the era of AI. And I think so many of us think of AI as sort of a dirty word, especially as teachers, yeah? Because we know AI is what our students use to cheat on essays, which, yeah, unfortunately, that is kind of one application of AI, but it's so broad and so expansive, and it has so much potential to be used as a tool to help us facilitate all of these different things. So I wanted to walk you guys through a new technique that I developed, really for my own teachers in response to a need that we were facing, but that I hope has applications for you guys as well. So first, I wanted to talk a little bit about project-based learning. I think that a lot of us as teachers, especially as teachers who are involved in kind of professional development programs like this, we have heard of project-based learning and we hear, okay, it's an opportunity for our students to kind of apply knowledge. It's not quite the same as testing, but it still sort of assesses them. It's fun and engaging and interactive. And we hear all of these really good and interesting things about it. And we also hear, studies and data talking about how it promotes deeper learning and a like stronger ability to apply knowledge, right? So we hear all of these really cool things about project-based learning, but I think a lot of us don't quite have the like we're still having difficulty bridging that gap between I know this is a cool and good thing that I should do, but I don't quite feel like I have the technical skills to do it well. And I think that another thing is that it's fun and exciting, but it also takes a lot from teachers to design, plan, and manage a project so that it's effective for learning. In a lot of cases, it might be easier for us to just do sort of a standard exam like we're used to doing because we know how to do that, we know how to measure that. And it might even take us less time to design an exam than it would to design, manage, and facilitate a project. So I wanted to kind of teach this method so that we can make it a little bit easier for us to understand how do I actually design these projects? How do I facilitate them? What are the important parts of project-based learning? And from my perspective, whenever you have a project, so the goal of project-based learning is to actually assess students' knowledge by having them do a project. So instead of giving them an exam or giving them an essay, you give them a task. So let's say, for example, we had a unit about the story Humpty Dumpty, which is something we recently did for our first graders in school. If you had a unit where you're reading the story Humpty Dumpty, instead of just saying, okay, can you recite the story? Or instead of saying, all right, let's take this multiple choice exam on the story. Maybe we say, I want you to design a poster about Humpty Dumpty, and I want you to show me the different parts of the story. Or maybe you would have them act out the story. You would say, okay, you are going to be Humpty, you're going to be the king's men, you're going to be the horses, right? And you have them actually interact sort of with these different things. But the goal of project-based learning is to assess, did your students actually learn what they were supposed to learn in that unit or, in that sort of particular time period? So when you're doing that, it's important that you have some pretty clear and objective criteria for what you're looking at. So first, the important thing is to show the project description in a clear way. So if we go back to that Humpty Dumpty example, if I'm having them act out the story of Humpty Dumpty and I'm assigning them different roles, I need to clearly state what each student should do. I need to clearly state, what do I expect of you? I expect you guys to act out this story. I expect you guys to dress up in character. I expect you guys to, recite the story, sing it, whatever it is. Yeah. So a clear description of what do you expect from your students. And then you also have to have an assessment rubric. So an assessment rubric, it's a way to objectively measure, did they actually demonstrate their knowledge and did they demonstrate it effectively? I like to have 3 categories for my assessments. I like to have an excellent category, which means you did a great job. I like to have a good category, which is, okay, it's good, but there's room for improvement. And then my last category is usually needs help, right? So they didn't quite meet the lesson objective. They weren't quite able to demonstrate and apply that knowledge, right? But then the third thing, which I think a lot of teachers overlook, is practical examples. Our students don't understand what we're asking unless we show them an example of it, especially if we're working with younger kids or if we're working with ESL learners. It's so important for us to have some sort of visual example or practical example to demonstrate for them, this is what success looks like. And this is sort of a model to help you frame the production of your own work as well. So those are the 3 things that you need to have in order to have an effective project-based learning assessment. The first is a clear project description. The second is an objective assessment rubric. And then the third is practical examples so they can see what they're supposed to do. Okay, when it comes to AI in teaching, I think a lot of us by now have started playing around with AI to see what it can do for us as educators. I think a lot of us have realized that it can be very valuable in lesson planning. It can be very valuable in creating worksheets. Of course, we still have to be the ones to sort of critically look at and review what is AI producing because it's not always accurate, right? But it can be used as kind of an assistant for us, which is great because as teachers, we're very busy people. So AI can be very useful in acting as kind of an assistant or as a creative partner. So sometimes I'll do this where I want to have like a fun or interactive lesson, but I'm a little bit, maybe I'm facing a little bit of writer's block. I can't quite figure out what I want. And so I can ask AI for a couple of ideas and maybe I'll go back and forth with it until I refine and find something that I think would be effective for my students. So I think most of us have started playing around with it a little bit, but I don't think that we all fully understand kind of its potential applications because it's such a new technology. And the only way that we really do learn is by playing around with it. So when it comes to AI for project-based learning, one of the reasons I really like it is it's first off, it helps you sort of think of creative ideas, but it also helps with some of that grunt work that's maybe a little bit more difficult. So, for example, it's great at generating clear assessment rubrics. So, clear assessment rubrics where it might take me, maybe like it depends, but let's say it takes me like 20 minutes to write an assessment table and fill out each block and think of all of these different criterias and things like that. AI can do it in like 2 seconds, right? So in that case, it can help a lot with some of that grunt work, but it can also, one of the things that I really like is if you give it very clear instructions and very clear prompts, it can make something that perfectly matches, or maybe not perfectly, but generally matches the specific lesson objectives of your class. So when I'm doing project-based learning, I'm typically doing it for a unit assessment. And when I'm doing it at the end of a unit assessment, it means I have specific lessons that I've already finished. And each lesson has a lesson objective. So if I put the lesson objective into that AI prompt, and say, hey, I want to measure these specific skills because this is what my students were supposed to learn. It's pretty good at creating ideas and rubrics that specifically match the lesson objectives that they were supposed to learn in that unit. So I think it's pretty great. And it can give clear instructions and metrics to the students. But again, you as the teacher are responsible for refining that. You understand the level of your students better than the computer does. And so even if it gives you something, I typically recommend not accepting whatever is the first thing it spits out, right? Going through an iterative process of refining is always a good idea. Okay, so how do you actually do it? So here are the steps that I take when I'm generating a project-based learning idea with AI. And I'm actually going to walk you guys through this as well. We're going to demonstrate a practical example of it. But first, I give it very specific prompts. So its output is only as good as the prompts that you give it. So if I say, can you make me a project-based learning idea that measures my students' English? Okay. English is very broad. Do you want vocabulary? Do you want grammar? How old are your students? What is your objective, right? There are so many different things. But if I say, hey, can you help me generate some ideas for a project-based learning assessment for my, fifth grade ESL students who have just been studying the story of Three Billy Goats Gruff. Yeah. In that case, it's able to give me something that's much more specific, especially if I say, yeah, these were our specific grammar objectives or something like that. So be extremely specific with your prompts. Okay. Second, I always recommend building the project on the specific unit topic and lesson objectives for that unit. In any good curriculum, you're going to have lesson topics and lesson objectives. So that's that students will be able to, by the end of this lesson, students will be able to uh, identify the three characters in the story, or students will be able to make a story map. Yeah. So I recommend that you build your project, your assessment of the final unit based off of the specific lesson objectives that they were supposed to meet, because that's what your students were supposed to learn. And the point of an assessment is to measure, did they learn what they were supposed to learn? Yeah. Three, I recommend that you inform the AI model about the needs of your students. So I always tell the AI that my students are ESL learners, because I think that's a really important caveat. So if I don't tell it that, it might produce something that's maybe too difficult or too high level for my students, right? If I inform them of the needs, it's a lot better. I recommend always asking for multiple suggestions. Typically, it's not going to get it perfect on the first try. So if you ask for multiple suggestions, that's one of the ways that AI can work as a creative partner rather than as a creative replacement. Yeah. And then lastly, refine, refine, refine. It's not going to get it perfect on the first time. If you get a project idea and you know this is too difficult for my students, or this is too easy for my students, you can tell it that, and then you can kind of adjust as needed. So first, let's walk through how to do it. So this is the first prompt that I like to do for the project description. So remember, we have three parts: the project description, the rubric, the assessment rubric, and then examples. And I have a different prompt for each one. And these prompts are meant to be used kind of in a series. So I say, I'm a teacher at an international school in Uzbekistan, and I want to plan a unit assessment for my first grade students who are ESL learners. I would like to use the PBL style of assessment. Can you help me plan a project that assesses their achievement of the learning objectives? Make sure it's clear, engaging, and appropriate for first grade ESL learners. And then you'll also notice that some of these things are bolded and some of them are italicized. The things that are italicized are the things that you can change and customize according to your needs. The bolded things are the things that I recommend keeping the same typically. And then you can just clearly put in my subject, my unit, my lesson objectives, things like that. Okay. So now let me share with you. Let me share with you my curriculum. All right, you guys should see a screen that says Oak National Academy on it, yeah? So this is actually the science curriculum that we follow in our school. So Oak National Academy is a UK-based curriculum. So it's free, it's accessible, and I mean, basically, this is sort of the same curriculum that UK public schools use. So we follow a UK-based system, and we're a fully in English school, at our private school. So anyway, this is what we follow for our science curriculum. And you'll see here, I have the unit, which is season changes, autumn and winter. This is for our first grade science course. And then we have our lesson, Signs of Autumn, and then this is the lesson objective. I can describe changes in autumn. Weather in autumn, I can describe the weather in autumn, blah, 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 blah. And so you see we have 5 lessons, 5 topics, 5 lesson objectives. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go into ChatGPT and I'm going to input my prompt. And I'm also going to put this in the chat for you guys so that you can follow along kind of at home if you would like to. So let me quickly put that in the chat so you guys can see it. All right, so I put the first prompt in the chat. So this is my prompt, and I have here my subject, science, my unit, seasonal changes in autumn and winter, and my lesson objectives. So I've already kind of put this in from from the curriculum, but what you would do is you would just copy and paste, right? So you can copy and paste the unit topic as well as the specific lesson objectives for each one. So I've already put it in here just so that it's a little bit easier to follow. And let's start. Let's see what it comes up with. And you can see it is so fast. So our first idea is our season storybook. Students create a simple illustrated storybook showing what happens in autumn and winter in their environment. Our second project is weather reports. So they become a weatherman or a meteorologist, kind of explaining what's happening. So more of a presentation, right? And then we have a class seasons mural. So this one is like a collaborative group project. So it's came up with 3 ideas based off of the specific information that I gave for my students and for my curriculum as well. And I think these are all pretty fun, right? As a teacher, I know my students, I know their level, and I know that my students, even though they're really great at science, they still feel a little bit shy doing kind of public presentations. So maybe the weather report might not be the best fit for them. You know, some of my students don't feel comfortable going up in front of the whole class and, you know, presenting orally. But I think that my students would be pretty good at focusing and doing kind of an our season storybook. I think that they do well when they have time to think about something and write it down and kind of to really plan out their project. So I think that project 1 fits the needs of my students. And again, I can do that because I've asked for multiple different suggestions. So I now have project 1 based off of the sort of curriculum that I have provided. So now I have here my second prompt. I have my project idea. Now I want my assessment. So I'm going to put in the chat and then also here. This is my second prompt. It says, I like insert project suggestion. So edit that. I'm going to say project 1, our season storybook. I like project 1, our season storybook. Can you design a rubric for evaluating this project? The rubric should be clear, specific, and easy to understand for first grade students. And again, you can edit that if you have 7th grade, 10th grade, whatever. Okay. And then I also give clear guidance on how I want the assessment criteria to look. It should have 3 columns: excellent, good, and needs help. And it should have evaluation criteria that align with and synthesize the lesson objectives from the first prompt. You guys remember I put the lesson objectives here, okay? And then I also say it should have a maximum of 3 to 5 evaluation criteria because I find that more than that, students get very confused, okay? So this is my updated prompt for our second component, which is the assessment rubric. So let's see what it's able to come up with. And again, it's instant. It's so fast, right? So it has these criteria: describing autumn, describing winter, weather words, picture and effort, and then speaking and sharing. And so you guys can see this rubric is based off of these lesson objectives that I gave previously. I can describe changes, I can describe weather, yeah. And based off of the specific project idea that it came up with earlier. So I think this is a, generally speaking, good assessment rubric. I think it aligns with what I asked it to do. And I think that it's pretty good for me as a teacher. But I also want to show this rubric to my students. And I think that it might be a little complicated for my students to understand. It's good for me as the teacher, but if I want to show my students, maybe I should make it a little simpler. So I'm going to give that feedback. I'm going to say, this is good, but I think it is a little too complicated for my students. can you use language that is more clear, simple, and precise for my first grade ESL students? And then I might also say, maybe you can add pictures for each criteria. And then now you see I have something that's a little bit simpler and a little bit easier. And they've also added little picture icons for each of these categories so that it's easier for my students to kind of connect and understand. So now, instead of saying, I clearly show and tell what happens in autumn, leaves fall, it's windy, animals collect food. It's much more simple. I can tell and show what happens in autumn. Yeah. I can tell a little about autumn is good, right? I can tell a few things about autumn was kind of before. So I think this is going to be a lot easier for my students to understand. So awesome. I now have my project idea and I have my assessment rubric. But another thing that I like to do is to show my students some practical examples as well. And it takes us time to kind of come up with specific examples for each project. So I like to use AI to help kind of generate some of those ideas. So let's find our third prompt. The third prompt doesn't really need a lot of editing. So I'm going to put that in the chat for you guys to see. Okay, so my third prompt is, can you give me 3 examples of student projects? I forgot. Student projects based on the rubric. The first example should demonstrate the excellent category. The second example should demonstrate the good category. And the third example should demonstrate the needs help category. And obviously, it can't make me the physical storybook. I, as the teacher, am going to have to actually make a physical storybook, but it can tell me what that example should look like. And I always like to have 3 examples for my students. I like to have 1 example of the excellent, 1 example of good, and 1 example of needs help, so that students can clearly see what is expected of them and what quality of work produces what result. Yeah. So here, it gives me examples for what an excellent book looks like. So there's a page for autumn, there's a page for winter. It uses weather words, pictures, and sharing. Yeah. And then it also tells specifically how does this match the rubric categories. And then we have good. So the autumn page is there, the winter page is there, but it's maybe a little bit more simple, not quite as involved as the excellent. Yeah. And it uses a few words correctly. And the pictures are kind of simple. Yeah. And then for needs help, it has an autumn page, but it's not correct. Yeah. The tree is green, right? Or here, the winter page, it doesn't actually have a lot. It's just kind of scribbled. Yeah. Which is pretty accurate for what some of our first graders produce. So it's not going to create the physical book for you, but it can guide you in what that physical example should look like. So it kind of takes some of the time out of thinking, how do I design this project? Or how do I design this example for my students? You can ask it to generate some photo style examples, but if I'm honest, the AI capacity for the visual element is still technology is improving every day. And I think that sometimes the visual element still needs a little bit of improvement. So I typically don't use it as much with my students, but using it to kind of generate some ideas based off of that, based off of our unit and our objectives is something that I think it's pretty good at. Okay. So that is my method for using AI to help plan our project-based learning approaches. I've put the 3 prompts in the Zoom chat. So you should be able to see them pretty clearly and pretty effectively. And then also, if you look up in the chat, you will also see that I added a link to a Telegram group. So this is a Telegram group for kind of all of the times that I've done this presentation. I think this is the third time that I'm doing this particular presentation for a new audience of teachers here in Uzbekistan. Well, I guess now it's Central Asia in general, which I'm very excited about. But you're welcome to join that group if you would like. So for that group, we have some other teachers that will share what are some of the project ideas that they came up with as well. So you're welcome to join that group. You're welcome to share maybe project ideas that you've done. If you actually end up using this in your class, maybe take some pictures, maybe share it with people. As teachers, we learn, we grow, we collaborate with one another. So I would love to see any examples that you guys end up using from kind of this method. Someone is asking if we can repeat the link. Yeah, we can repeat the link. I'll send that to you guys. Okay.
Great.
Well, yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, you are welcome. Great presentation, Hannah. Thank you so much. What about the chat, Nadra, our moderator, session facilitator, Nadra Kushpakova from
Yes,
Uzbekistan?
I
What about
think
our community leaders?
yes, Anna wants to the link which shared above. Yes,
Mhm.
I think they will share soon their questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, please ask your questions. You can unmute yourself and you can raise your virtual hand and ask your questions directly. Yeah, if so far we don't have any questions. Yeah, Hannah, this very relevant topic, AI. Nowadays, any teacher in the world, any educator, try to use the AI. Try to have the balance between the traditional, the one, and the using the AI to find the right balance. So I'm sure your presentation will benefit a lot of educators, not only in Central Asia, because we are recording this session and we have some community interest communities where we can share your presentation with them. So I think this is very good and an interesting topic where you use artificial intelligence in project-based assessment.
Yeah, thank you. And again, like this is a technique that I developed because I ran into a problem that I needed to solve. Yeah. And I think that I would encourage all of our participants and teachers here today. AI has so many applications that we just haven't really tried yet. So when I say so many applications, like it's a new technology, right? There's a lot of potential there. And for us as teachers, there's a lot of potential for us to just play around with it and see what is it good at, what is it not very good at. So, for example, I told you that it gives me the suggestions for creating kind of photorealistic images of things. And because I played around with that, I know actually it's not as good as maybe we might think it is. Yeah. But I encourage you guys to kind of do the same. Just play around with these tools and find out for yourself, what is it good at? What is it not good at? In what ways can it help me? And in what ways do I need to be skeptical of it as well? So just play around with these tools. You're going to run into problems as teachers. See if it helps solve. If it helps solve, awesome. If it doesn't help solve, okay, well now you know that you can try a different tool instead.
Absolutely. Yeah, dear participants, if you have any questions, you can raise your virtual hand and ask the question directly. So we have some time.
No questions so far, Jürgen. Hannah, thank you so much for the presentation. But just to
No, actually, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good day for everybody. I'm from Fergana.
Oh,
Thank you, Hannah.
hi. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I live in Fergana. So Fergana is the greatest city in Uzbekistan for sure. I'm gonna say the greatest city in the world. I love it here.
Thank
But yeah,
you.
if any of you guys are in Fergana, stop by my school. I'd be happy to show you guys around and show you some of our new
Yeah, I'm
methods and
pretty,
techniques.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that I will do that someday, inshallah.
Yeah, yeah, stop by. I'd love to see you.
Thank you, Hannah. Well, actually, this is the first time I've heard about using AI tool for making rubrics for
Mhm.
PBL. And my question is, I'm actually the teacher who doesn't teach primary school students, and I teach actually secondary school students who are 16 and 17-year-old
Yeah.
students. It's actually called Lyceum in Uzbekistan. Lyceum students, they study 2 years here at Lyceum. So my question is, what the biggest benefits you noticed from using a PBL assessment instead of a traditional test? And
Yeah.
would you share the result, or
Yeah.
the rubrics with their parents, and how does it happen?
Yeah. Yeah, good question. So first,
Thank
I want
you.
to say that this technique, you can use it for any grade level. So if you look at the prompts, you'll notice they're customizable, right? So you don't have to, do it exactly as it's written. If it says in the prompt first grade students, you can say I have 10th grade students, yeah. And if your students are, let's say, specialized in IT or specialized in English, you can give that kind of information to the AI, and so it can kind of massage the result to be something that's specifically relevant to your students and to your grade level. But back to the question of how we apply this at our school. So first off, we have decided that we have no exams in the formal sense. All of our assessments are project-based learning. And so the reason for that is, again, it facilitates that deeper understanding. And we've made it clear that our goal is to not just teach students what the correct answer is, but teach them how to come up with that themselves. So we want to incorporate creativity and critical thinking from a young age. And so what we do is, we use this technique in our classes. So I've walked all of our teachers through it. Our teachers will kind of use this technique to generate some ideas. And if they have their own ideas independent of this, then they're totally welcome to do that as well. I'm not forcing anyone to kind of use this. It's just a tool that kind of helps save time if they need it, right? And then what we do is we have the students kind of demonstrate. Usually we'll take 2 class periods for a PBL assessment, or we might take up to 3 depending on how complicated the project is. Usually that first class period is going to be devoted to introducing the project. So again, that's where the clear description is so important. And so usually in that description, it has specific steps that the students follow. So we'll show them what is the description of the project. After we kind of explain what the project is, then we actually show the students the rubric as well. And we sort of walk through what are the parts that I'm looking for. I'm looking at your speaking, right? I'm looking at, your understanding of the topic, yeah? And I'm looking at, let's say, your effort and creativity, right? Whatever the categories are for that particular rubric, for that particular project. But we walk the students through that. And then we demonstrate for them the 3 examples that we came up with. And so after we've explained the project and we've explained the rubric, we'll show them, for example, the excellent category or the excellent example. And we'll walk them through, okay, students, what do you think? Is this creative? Does it use different colors according to the rubric? We'll say, yeah, it uses different colors. Does this tell you the story of Humpty Dumpty? Yeah, it tells the story. Does it have all of the characters? Yeah. What do you think of my presentation? Am I speaking loud? Am I speaking quiet? Well, you're speaking loud. So we'll actually walk them through it and we'll show them why this example meets the excellent category. Same thing for the good. We'll kind of walk them through and show them, all right, does this have all of the parts or only some of the parts of the story? Only some of the parts. Does it have all of the characters or only some of the characters? Some of the characters. And then we'll ask them, what do you think? Do you think this is excellent? Do you think it's good? Or do you think it needs help? And they'll say, it's good. So they can actually identify and understand. If you give them sort of these kind of visual examples and you walk them through, it helps them actually understand how they can assess their own work as well. So the students have sort of a deeper understanding of it. And then after that, I find that their work typically is better, right? Once they understand what each category is and how their work kind of is assessed. But then after that, we collect all of the project rubrics and we use that to sort of inform their project grade for that particular quarter. So at the end of each quarter, we're going to have a progress report that we give them, which shows, not just their assessment, but also, their in-class participation, stuff like that. So the project grade is a part of their total grade, but it's not the entire thing. And then we also keep the rubrics with us so that if the parents have particular questions, we can actually clearly show them. And usually what we'll do, if the project is something physical, we'll actually send the student home with the project. After it's assessed, let's say it's a storybook, yeah? After it's assessed and we have the rubric, we'll tell them, yeah, take it home, show your parents. The parents love to see things like that, So that's kind of how we practically go through the process at our school. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
Anna, I see you have your hand raised.
Anna, sweet.
Yeah, just wanted to add, I think, exactly what you've been explaining. It also helps them to feel fairness in their assessment
Yeah.
because, once they do this kind of peer-friendly assessment in the
Yeah.
first of all, they are getting used to giving feedback to each other this way. And it helps tremendously to kind of stick to the point of what is great about it and what we can improve. We've done a similar thing for the teenagers in Access program for self-presentation. And it's kind of with the prompts, and I love your reiteration of please don't, AI can give you the suggestion, but sometimes they're so
Yeah.
not knowing how your students are.
Yeah.
So all of those adjustments and it kind of makes it personal. The
Yeah.
only trouble is don't forget to sign in because sometimes I've been working and then the internet connection disrupts and I'm like,
Yeah.
crap, I wasn't logged in. So
Yeah.
all your reiterative process goes to kindly redo.
Yeah, save your work, you guys. Save your work. If you have anything valuable, take it out and put it in the document or something.
True. But it's kind of great because later on they are providing feedback to each other, and then we've done a couple videos. It's just makes it easier on your part. You don't have to kind of be that judge in a way.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I love about working with older students, right? Like younger students, they still don't quite have that capacity, in the same way that older students do. But with older students, they understand, like you said, that fairness aspect of it very well, right? Like, especially if you kind of explain it to them, they can clearly understand, why did I get the grade that I got? Yeah.
Exactly.
And everyone else kind of understands as well. So sometimes what we might do if we have older students is we might, give them each rubrics and kind of let them assess each other as well. And of course, the teacher's assessment is the one that actually makes the grade. But letting the students kind of assess each other, it's a way to boost class engagement and boost understanding of the process as well.
Yeah, and in the long run, sometimes if you do have a couple of elephants in the room, as I'm used to call them, those that haven't done their homework, doing that whole process of feedback out loud allows them to later on. I don't usually, we're not at school, so I don't have to, punish them for not being able to do it. But then I was like, okay, so I guess you guys have provided feedback, so make sure you remember what you've told because now you can use it to make your own project.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I think, I am a believer that procrastination is something that's sometimes born and not made, right? I think I'm a born procrastinator, honestly. And just the other day, we were doing an assessment with our first graders, and their assessment was, they had learned a story about three billy goats, yeah? And so their project was, okay, I want you to write your own storybook with the three billy goats, right? Draw the billy goats, write, the sentences. Yeah, they've learned it, just kind of, make the project, and then you're going to read your story for the class. And then we had one little girl, and you could tell she did not do it at all. And then while we're, assessing other students, she's frantically working on it and drawing her story. And then she comes up and she starts reading, and she's reading so well. She's retelling the story, and her storybook is completely blank. Like, she just sort of memorized the story, but she didn't have the time to actually write it. But
You still have to give her credit. I cannot
yeah,
give that.
it's like, okay, I can't give you credit for the writing, but for retelling, you did a great job. 5 out of 5 for retelling.
Precisely. And it's a
Yeah.
skill to come up with something on a go, so
Yeah, exactly. She's gonna go far in this world, I think. Great. All right. Do you guys have any other thoughts or questions?
Questions in the chat box, Nadra?
May I try to ask a
So far
question?
not, but
Yes, please.
yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
please.
Uh-huh. Okay, it was so nice to meet with Hannah. Like it
Yeah.
is very helpful for us and effective to use AI in project-based learning. I am a university teacher, and I have a question for you. Like, what do you suggest to us to find driving question to students? Because not for every unit we can find driving question to students. And
Yeah.
the second question is, what do you usually do at the end of your project-based learning? Like, you have to choose one of the winner team, and how do you support them? Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So, for the first question about, how do you actually find those guiding questions or those learning objectives? If you guys will remember, I started off the presentation by saying any well-written curriculum will have lesson objectives. I'm very aware that we are operating in a realistic world, not an idealistic world, and we don't all have well-written curriculums. So in that case, it's up to you to write your own kind of lesson objectives for each topic. You might have a syllabus that's given to you that just has the topics, and so you can think about, basically, what would my students need to do to prove that they've learned this topic? So let's say the topic is something related to grammar. Let's say something about conditionals. Yeah. Maybe your lesson objective is I can write sentences using the 4 conditionals or something. I can write one sentence for each conditional. Yeah. So in that case, you have to kind of come up with your own lesson objective. Yeah. But I do say this style of planning, it really works best if you have lesson objectives that you can clearly give the AI model. If you don't have that, then it's a little bit harder to measure. So if you don't have the lesson objectives, then you're the one who has to kind of write them yourself. And then for the second question about, how do you sort of, what do you do after project-based learning? It largely depends on the project. So sometimes we do have group project work. I'm a huge fan of group projects. I think they're great for, learning, and then also for social development as well. So if we have a group project or even individual projects, if we've clearly explained to them what are we looking for in the assessment, and if we've clearly modeled for them, this is excellent, this is good, needs help, then in that case, it should be pretty clear and pretty fair who performed well and who didn't, right? It's not a secret. We're not trying to hide it from anybody. Like, you guys can all sort of see it for yourselves. And the students know as well. Like, they can understand, oh, the needs help one has like only 3 words and no actual sentences, and mine doesn't have any actual sentences. I probably need help. So in that case, for those particular students who, let's say, didn't pass the assessment, who, were following to that needs help, then we're going to look more at, all right, well, first off, is this something that's unique to that student, or is this something where most of the students in the class struggled with this? In that case, we might say that, all right, well, maybe as teachers, we didn't fully explain this particular thing, or maybe we sped through the lesson before all of the students met that particular learning objective. So if it's kind of like a whole class problem that we're noticing, like for example, I noticed with our assessments last week that most of our students were still in that good or needs help category when it comes to writing. Yeah. And, you know, it's their first time in a fully English school. So that's expected, right? So it's just important for us to know that data and to have it so that we can target and tailor our future approaches. If it's one of those things where it's clear that most of our students haven't met the lesson objective, then let's do a couple of revision lessons on that particular unit until we feel like they're strong on that. At our particular school, we follow the approach of lesson mastery. So that means we don't go based off of a specific calendar. You know, it's not like lesson 1 has to happen today, lesson 2 has to happen tomorrow. If they didn't meet the lesson objectives, let's revise the lesson until they do. So we want to make sure that we have that lesson mastery before we move on, you know, because it's like building a pyramid. If you don't have a solid foundation, nothing else is going to be successful after that. So that's kind of our approach for what we do after the project-based assessments.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for answering the questions, Hannah. So it's already time. Thank you so much, Hannah, for your contribution to our interest community, Open Central Asia interest community. We're so happy to have you here today. So again, thank you so much. It was a great webinar. It was a great presentation from you. So yeah, of course we are recording the session, and we will share it with many communities where we are. So thank you so much. We will reach out to you in short time to hand out your certificate of appreciation. And thank you so much.
I love certificates.
Yes, our own certificates. So if you have any questions, you can share your questions on our Facebook page. I'm sure Hannah will visit us. Will reach out. We will visit us and answer your questions under our post under this session, where we will share it on our interest community on our Facebook page. So please, Anna, please visit our Facebook page, and if there will be any questions from our teachers from Central Asia, please answer these questions.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys so much. And then also, if you guys want to connect with me and follow me, you can follow me on Instagram, Telegram, LinkedIn, whatever. On Instagram and Telegram, I have a channel, Mrs. Hannah English. So you guys are welcome to sort of follow that. Happy to connect with you guys that way. And then you guys can also look me up on LinkedIn. It's just Hannah Rothwell. So yeah. And then if you guys are ever in Fergana, let me know.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
We have a time for some announcements. You may say, Hannah, we have some announcements for our upcoming webinars in November. Okay, our upcoming webinars in November. Our next webinar is from Anna Bloom, Kazakhstan, special webinar segment, and she's going to talk about the empowering students to find their voice, soft skills, and self-expression in the ESL classroom. See you there, Anna. Anna is here. So the next in the Open Globe Insights segment, one of our active members on the COP Community of Practice, Open Community of Practice, Malika Bolharada from Morocco. She's going to talk on the topic of strategies for supporting resilience in English language learners. So see you November 22nd, 5 p.m. Tashkent time. And our last webinar for November is from Tatiana Litekina, CASTI president, Open Alumni Connect segment, personalized and localized grammar learning. So great topic. The topic of in November is mastering grammar, and our expert is Tatiana Lichekina from Kazakhstan. See you on November 29, 6 p.m. Tashkent time. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you
Thanks
so much,
to you,
Nana.
Nadira, as always.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you very much,
Nadira.
you guys, for organizing.
Yeah, Nadira is our moderator for today's session. Thank you so much, Nadira, for facilitating and moderating the chat box here on this session. Okay, thank
I'm
you so
happy
much
to
for
be here.
participating. Yeah.
It's
Yes,
good to have you. You guys are a great gangsterhood. I'm saying it with the most loving sense. The
yes,
hardcore, exactly the
yes.
core.
Anna is always with us and support us every.
Well, who's guilty? I mean, if you guys were boring, I would have thought twice, but so you know what to do the day you want to get rid of me. Stop being boring.